Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, I absolutely am on board with the idea that you presented and how visually engaging, just by looking at it, I think we were all motivated to just pack our bags and have a camping session. But so yes, I think just that feeling itself is a reminder of how important it is for us, what you just presented. And we have we had a lot of engagement during your session as well. The chat box was completely popping up with a lot of feedback, with a lot of questions, with a lot of zest. So without any further delay, let's start with the questions. For those of you who have not posted your questions so far, you can use the chat box, or you can also use the activities button that is right next to your icon, and we can then take the questions as they come. So we have a lot of feedback actually coming in, like I said, So for example, one of the questions that has been asked from the principal of RIIS, and it's a two-part question. So first is, what special courses are taught to the teachers? Like, what is that extra course or curriculum that the teachers have to learn? And secondly, what are the qualifying exams that the students have to take, and at what level?
Okay, great questions. All right, so I'll talk about the training first. Because of the pandemic, all of my training is now virtual, which is a real big benefit for reaching many more people in many more places. So Forest School Teacher Institute is the name of my training company. And Namrata, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to share that website with everyone, or is there some way they can find that? Okay. And yes, so yes, I do training for teachers. I also do training for Forest School directors, because many teachers also want to start their own programs. So there are two courses. One is for the teachers and one is for the directors. And they last approximately 2 weeks each. We meet every day by Zoom, and there's a lot of extra work as far as studies to look at, and so it's like taking pretty much any other online class, I guess, except that it's a lot more fun. And then the other question was, what was the other question? Oh, the exams for children.
Yes.
Okay. Well, of course, the United States is a little bit different, I'm sure, than what your educational system is. So our children typically don't take exams to go from one grade level to the other. But they do have to reach certain standards. So there are learning guidelines, learning standards that each county system has developed. And most of them are developed around the Common Core curriculum here in the United States. So what we do is we help children meet all of those standards through their activities outdoors. So they do learn all the academics, but they're connected to what they're learning outside. I don't know if that answers the question. I hope it does.
Yes, and we have some more actually. So are you aware of any such concepts, which are being followed by Indian schools? Any schools in India which is running on the similar lines?
I'm quite sure there are some. I can't give you examples, but it seems to me that I have seen some reports of nature schools in India. I'm sorry, I wish I knew that answer.
All right. So moving on to more questions, we have one which is being asked. She has asked, what are the specific courses, or what are the specific options that one can take to learn about the Forest School?
Okay. Well, through my training program, we have an introduction. And the introduction is basically the philosophy of Forest School, the framework, the learning framework, the teaching framework, and how we've used many other learning theories and learning philosophies to develop Forest School programs. We have observations and assessment class. So we learn how to take observations, how to assess the children as they're playing outside for the skills they're developing, and as academically as well. We have curriculum development classes. We have nature journaling So not only are we learning how to teach children out there, but we're also learning how to develop our own nature connection. So I believe very strongly that teachers have to already love being in nature, or they want to love being in nature and learn about it before they can help children experience it. So I really work hard on creating opportunities for teachers to develop that connection with nature themselves. So that's the teacher course. The director course has classes about site development, because finding a place to teach your nature school typically involves figuring out how that site's going to work, what things need to be done to it to make it better. There are also classes on marketing, how to promote your program, developing your business plan, staffing, choosing teachers, how do you hire teachers for nature school, professional development for your school, kind of the typical things that a principal has to deal with. We teach that in the director course. It's a little different for a nature school, but so many things are the same when it comes to administration.
All right. We actually have one more question. So, Forest School by Miss Vaishali Shah. So she has stated that Forest School is the need of our time to build self-sustainability, which is absolutely
Yes.
correct. But can you share some aspects, about how one can implement Forest School kind of schooling in higher grades?
In higher grades, yes, absolutely. In fact, that's part of our teacher course. We do have some, we spend time on how to work with older children in a forest school setting. And the same principles apply from little children to older children. The difference with the older children is, obviously, there's a little bit more directed teaching, and they take a lot of initiative as they get older. Actually, my classroom teaching experience was mostly with middle school children and 7th and 8th grade students. And so I spent a lot of time with them developing projects, and they were all connected with something around our school, some kind of a nature feature. So the last year I taught in the classroom, we actually adopted a creek that was close to where the school was. And the children, that became the theme of all of their academic work. So they tested the waters of that creek. They cleaned the creek. They developed videos to share with the public about how important it is to keep that creek clean. They actually ended up working with the city to develop a pathway, a trail that followed that creek, so that more and more people could come there and learn about it. They also learned about the history of the creek. I mean, it was a complete project. And that's how I usually share this kind of learning with teachers. This is how to develop it for older children. But again, the children take the lead in so many ways in this kind of learning, project-based learning.
So, ma'am, we actually have one more question on very similar lines.
Okay.
When we talk about conventional schooling versus the kind the ones that you have put forward to. So, how Mr. Raja Konduri has asked, how smoothly does the migration of kids become when they move on to a normal school?
Yes, that's a very important question, and one that many people have. And so we know from research that children do exceptionally well, ones that have been in a forest kindergarten program that go into traditional schools. We are also tracking our own students as they leave Wauhatchie School and go into public schools. Most of them have gone into public schools. Some go into private schools. And we are connecting with the parents to find out how those children have been doing. And without exception, everyone has been successful as they made that transition into a traditional school. And I've decided the reason for that is because they've learned to be adaptable. They've learned to be resilient by being outside. So changes are easy for them. You know, they already see that in nature. They see change around them all the time. They learn how they can change themselves to adapt to a new situation. So it's wonderful to see, and it's wonderful to hear that these students are doing so well as they transition into other schools.
Actually on point. I mean, the whole aspect that, you know, they build up a lot which will help them to any part of the, you know, any part of the system. And similar question from Mr. Raja. As kids are always outdoors, how and what kind of measures are being taken for the safety and hygiene of the kids, you know? Probably because being kids, they might have a low immunity.
Good question. These are all great questions, and guess what? I've heard them all too before. So so these are all questions that everyone has about forest school. So, of course, we talked about the fact that they have to be dressed appropriately. That's very, very important to keep them well and healthy. So if it's cold, they need to have the proper clothing on, of course. If it's raining, they need to be kept dry. So as far as their immune systems, I believe, and I think research is backing this up now, that we need nature in our lives more and more. It helps us be stronger. Even the soil. We know now there are microbes in the soil that we need to have in our bodies to be healthy. So children digging in the dirt, playing with the mud, those are all wonderful things for them, for their health, not just for their own sensory development and the joy of exploring, but for their health. We do a lot of hand washing outside. Depends on which forest school you go to. We actually collect our rainwater in rain barrels, and the rainwater has the barrel has a spigot on it. So not only are we being sustainable, living sustainably, promoting that, but the children are able to access that water whenever they need it to wash their hands. We have composting toilets often at our sites. We are maybe far out in the woods, so we have a toilet there that the children can use. They also usually have access to a building somewhere. And I wanted to tell you, this is related to the question. It's also related to some of the other questions. Many public schools are adopting forest school as a part of their program. And I call it a hybrid. So basically they go outside for half the day and they come inside for half the day. So that model is working very, very well here in the United States. And more schools are looking at how to do this. So of course, if that's the case, then the school building is usually not far from the forest school site. So as far as bathrooms go, they have access to the bathrooms there. I think did that answer all the questions about the health and the immunity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a lot of engagement that your session has sparked, ma'am, in the chat box, because, you know, we are having a lot of parallels being drawn to the ancient Gurukul system, or about how, you know, being in nature actually builds resilience and builds immunity and those kind of aspects. So thank you for that. There's one very important question that has come across, that do the kids who are a part of the forest school programs, do they appear in regular exams, or an IGCSE exam?
Say that one more time. I didn't get the last part about the exams.
Yes. So do the kids who are enrolled in the forest schools, do they appear for regular exams like an IGCSE and A-level exam? I understand it would apply to a higher grade kids, not preschool kids, but do they have a similar evaluation system as conventional schooling?
For the most part, the United States doesn't have exams. What they do have are achievement tests, but those achievement tests are really set up to measure how they're doing, you know, at each grade level. So as far as exams at the end of each grade before they move to the next grade, we don't have that in place here in the United States. But they do, like I said, they do have to meet standards before they can move on to the next grade. Or they may move on to the next grade and then they have to take extra work to meet some of the standards they did not quite meet from the grade before. So that's typically the way it works in the United States.
All right. So basically, by default, the curriculum for any aspect will be more to focus on the progress mapping rather than evaluating.
I think that's a good way to say it. Yes. Now there are exams. I think I saw something on the chat there. There are exams, of course, to get into college, but we've not tracked the students that far. It's, the nature school is kind of a new thing in the United States. So we're really now just getting started with collecting data as far as the academics, how they're going to be doing throughout school. But I'm pretty sure from all the past research that the forest school only helps them be more successful as they continue on in school. And the one thing we didn't talk about that's so important is children gain a joy of learning when they're outside in nature, when they're exploring. To me, having a joy of learning is what makes children motivated to want to learn more and to do better in school. So joy of learning that they receive out there, to me, is probably the biggest gift that we can give children to help them be successful in school.
All right. So, Miss Salvage, she is asking, are the forest schools in US mostly public access or are they privatized? Because she is hoping that everybody should have access to such a wonderful concept.
And this is my heart, because I want every single child to have this experience. So that's why I'm working right now, especially with public schools, because that's where they really need to have this experience. And probably, I'm sure the vast majority of forest schools in the United States right now are private. But that's changing. And a lot of us that are leaders in this movement here in the US are trying our very best to see how many public schools we can get to join us in this movement. And it is happening. It's not as fast as we wish. However, during the pandemic, it's definitely picked up. There are many more public schools now that are looking at getting their children outside more.
That's great. So there's one question which talks very specifically about the experiences of the parents whose children are being enrolled in the school. So Ms. Madhumita Adhya, she's asking that what is the feedback of parents and how do they feel, that as per, let's say if the kid was at a regular school, then how are the parents' experiences different or are they not different at all?
So once they leave a forest school setting, as I said, because they've learned to be so adaptable, they typically are just doing very well and have adapted to the point that they enjoy being in an indoor classroom, which is difficult. I have my grandson is an example. So he was in forest school. He was with me in forest school for probably 3 years. He just went into public school last year. And he's doing very, very well. He's doing well academically. He's adjusting very well. So I don't see that as a big problem for most children. I think they all transition really well into a different school. I think there was more to that question. I didn't answer all of it, did I?
Yes, so they wanted to know that are the parents or the kids more anxious compared to the parents whose kids are being enrolled at a regular school?
Anxious about their academics or anxious about the pandemic?
Yes.
Academics. No, they actually aren't. And I think there are several reasons for this. Wauhatchie School is a private school. Parents choose to send their children to us. And they choose to send their children to us because they believe how important nature is in their children's lives. So they are all extremely excited and happy. And in fact, we don't market our school other than our website. The best marketing is the parents that are so excited about, they tell their parents, their friends. So that's how we get more students, is because of the parents being so excited about what's happening.
All right, that makes sense. So there's a lot of chatter, about what is the extended, what are the grades up to which the forest school is being implemented. So if I stand correctly, currently you're working very, very strongly with the preschool system. However, you do provide trainings and guidance, and the setup is there to take it all the way up to the 12th grade. Am I correct?
That certainly is a possibility. Here's what we're doing at Wauhatchie School. We have preschool classes for children that are just a half a day. So they come at 9 o'clock in the morning, they stay till 12. And these are children 3 to 6 years old, actually 2 to 6 years old. And then we have a full day program for grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. And those children stay all day long, and they are there from 8:30 till 3 o'clock. And they are reaching all their standards, learning standards for those grade levels. Our intent is to go up to grade 5 for Wauhatchie School. That's what we want to do. That's our vision. There are some schools in the United States that take the grades all the way up through high school, and they're still pretty much outdoor based. So yes, absolutely. This works throughout all grade levels. And of course, that would be a dream of mine as well, is that we have a fully outdoor school from preschool all the way up to 12th grade.
Yes, ma'am. We actually have one more follow-up question from Mr. Connery. Do you have a structured curriculum around which you map the content, or because he believes that the objective of teaching and learning and end products must be in the mind of any program for that matter?
Yes, that's an excellent observation. Again, the teachers are watching the students. So once the students have shown them what they're really interested in, then the teachers develop their lessons and their follow-up and their enrichment around the themes. So the themes are what the children choose. The lessons and activities are what the teachers choose. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the teachers they become really good. Yeah, we call it backwards lesson planning. So we have the standards. We know what the children need to learn. How they learn it then is the teacher's job. And the teacher's looking at the children, getting the themes from the children, and then figuring out how she's going to teach all of those standards.
So also applicable to the middle year program, like around grade 5 and 6?
What was your question?
The whole way that the curriculum charting that you do, like you said, you first focus on the end result and then take it, backwards from there. So is it also applicable in the middle years program, around grade, like let's say 5 and 6?
I think it could be. I think it would be maybe more of a collaboration between the teacher and the students, where they would think about what they would like to study and work together on it. As probably, it's pretty much the same principle, however. It's still child-directed. And of course, the big philosophy of this is constructivism. So constructivism is the philosophy that's really makes the framework for the whole forest school idea.
Sure. So we have a second last question coming from Dr. Aarti Bhatti. She has asked that, have you tried some sort of exchange programs like, between the regular schools and your school?
Not really. However, what we're doing is there is a site where our school is located, is an arboretum and a nature center. And a site has been developed for public schools to bring their children to our site to experience forest kindergarten. And then our part is to train the teachers. So we're working with the teachers when they bring their children to this site to have a forest school experience for their children. So we've had as many as 100 children come at one time, and they're divided up into 4 little sites, and they have forest school right there. So that's kind of what we're doing right now with public schools.